I never could have seen myself to take a mic and sing a song, in front of 20, 30, 40 people. And I had no clue that karaoke can be that fun.
به پادکست زعفرونی خوش اومدین.
Aloha, hi, kia ora, and salam barto. Welcome to another episode of Saffrony podcast interview. This time I have Mr. Zohaib, my very good friend, the scientist from Dunedin, in the studio. I'm so happy to have him again in the show. And we are going to talk about the place that we lived for all of our PhD. Hey, welcome to the show again.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always an honor to be on the show.
Zohaib, as we discussed in the previous talk that we had about externalization, we touched base on Abbey College.
Yes.
And we talked about a little bit of our experience there. But today, we are going to talk fully about what we experienced during those years. For those who never experienced living in a post-grad college, they're going to, I think, feel a little bit envious.
I think so.
Yeah, because that option is gone for good. I'm not sure if they're going to return it or not, but at least people can visualize maybe from what we are talking about what we had during those years. Let me just start with this question. How did you feel when you land off from the airplane?
Well, it was a very long flight and I just wanted to sleep, first of all. My mom was with me as well. And one of our good friends came to pick us up from the airport. And, interestingly, I was actually not aware of where I was going to stay. So I hadn't booked any accommodation at that point. So when I got to Dunedin, that's when I started to look for accommodation. So I was very organized. The feeling of, landing in a new place and commencing on a PhD project was very, very, very exciting. So,
however, this wasn't the first time for you, you were leaving outside of your home country, huh?
Yeah, because I had actually lived in England for 5 years. So having lived in Oman, then I went on to do my bachelor's in biomedical sciences from England in the University of Sheffield. There as well, I had the opportunity to live in a student village, you can call it. So this was certainly not my first time. Then I lived in Pakistan for a little bit, and then I came to New Zealand. So there was a little bit of experience of going to another country. But New Zealand was quite exciting in the sense that so many green fields were there. And I knew that possibly hiking is going to be one of my favorite things to do. But for you, I guess it was the first time going to a country outside of Iran.
Yeah, it was. Actually, it was the first time that I hopped on an airplane.
Really?
And you know what? I never got to an airplane. I think I was a child maybe at the age of 3, 2, I can't remember, honestly. So I remember that it was a 26-hour flight. Like I had a connection in Dubai, and then I had the almost 17 hours flight to Auckland, and then from there to Dunedin. I basically started my journey in summer, towards the end of summer, and I landed in almost springtime in New Zealand. I remember it was an afternoon. It was showering, and when the airplane was landing slowly, and I was seeing these little white dots on the green field.
Yeah.
Because I studied a lot about New Zealand before I come here, and I was like, okay, that's an indication of the sheeps.
Yeah.
That their population is five times more than people here. So when I landed here, I had already organized Abbey College as my residential place, and guess who welcomed me the first time? The person who shared my name plus A at the end. Amira.
Oh, okay. She was SCA
That's
even back then when you landed.
She was an SCA, yeah. So for me, it was like a oh wow moment. Like I was greeted by princess.
Yeah, Prince
And I
was
don't want to
greeted by the
sound.
princess.
See, okay, you said it. I didn't say it, but it was fantastic. Like she showed me around, and I was so excited. I think I only slept for an hour or two because I can't sleep on an airplane. And I remember that when she showed me around, and then I went to my room around 9 p.m. I was checking my phone. My phone just fell down. I went to a 12-hour sleep.
Best sleep ever after 26 hours of flight.
It was indeed. What type of room did you go into?
I got a single room. I think we were in the same block. Honestly, I only had a look at two accommodations before Abbey College. One was in Northeast Valley, and it was a big church kind of a place. So my mom and I, we went and had a look. My mom said that this is possibly haunted. And then we went to another place, but we didn't like those two accommodations. Then when my mom for the first time went and had a look at my room in Abbey College, she said, Zohaib, this is it. You're staying here. Because meals were provided. The guy, Luke Morrison, at the time, the warden, was very friendly, very welcoming, showed us around, assured my mom that, Zohaib will be well taken care of.
So you had two flatmates.
Yes, and you only had one, I think.
I only had one. Yeah. I flatted with 9 different countries over the 3 years.
In Abbey College, wow.
Yeah. So when you were living with 2 other people from 2 different countries, it wasn't your first time, huh? Sharing a flat with other nationalities.
Not really. Because the first time when I moved to England, I was sharing a flat with possibly 7 or 8 nationalities. So it was 13 rooms in one place. And there were Nigerians, Malaysians, Indian, Pakistani, of course, English people as well.
When you're sharing a flat with other people, it means that you're sharing toilet and the bath. Did you ever feel like the level that I prefer to have a standard of cleanliness is not being met by other flatmates?
Frankly, my flat was quite clean. And at any point, did I not feel like, okay, well, the flat is too unclean? And the thing is that when I started, I was so heavily invested in my PhD that I did not end up spending as much time in my room anyways, because when I got back home, I would go into the communal space, play pool, hang out with people over there, because there was someone in the dining room at all times, either playing board games or sometimes playing instruments or playing pool or something. How about you? How did you feel about the cleanliness? Was it not met?
As I said, there was 9 different nationalities that I lived in within the 3 years. And most of those 3 years, I was lucky enough to not having any flatmate. It doesn't mean that I don't like to socialize, but it means that I had the opportunity to have the whole flat for myself. It's just more convenient, more privacy for myself. I definitely have a ranking.
Okay, nice. I'd like to hear that.
But I'm not going to say it because it's very controversial.
Okay.
But I just learned something during that process, that my definition from cleanliness is definitely cannot be labeled as a common sense for other people.
Right.
Like if you go to toilet and you use flush, that's a common sense for me. But when someone goes there and they return and they do not do the flush, I reach a point that, okay, this is, I don't know how to bring it up, because first of all, we are not sharing the same culture. Second of all, this is my first time that I'm coming to a different country. And I learned from a friend that they were like, listen, there are 2 different cultures per se. Type 1, they place a premium on themselves, meaning that if they're not feeling comfortable, they speak about it. The second type, if they feel uncomfortable, they're not going to talk about it because they do not place a premium on themselves. They think that, it's rude to ask the other person flush the toilet after you use or clean it up. Or when you take a shower, just, rinse with water. Your hair is just in the bathtub.
Yeah.
I was kind of in the middle. Sometimes I did say it in a very friendly, respectful manner. Sometimes I didn't. It was depending on the size of the person. There was a guy, there was a guy, I think you know whom I'm talking about. There was a guy who was twice as the size as me, and he was a rugby player. And he was quite muscular as well. And every time that he was going to bathroom and return, I knew that I'm going to flush and clean toilet first and then use it. Please
Was
flush.
the toilet too small for him, you think? They need to make a new toilet for him?
I guess so. Man, he was huge. And you know what? Even he didn't want to be in that room, but because there was no studio room available, he was forced to live there. And thank God he was just there for 2 weeks. It was a learning curve for me that what behavior can be labeled as rude or inappropriate or frank and blunt. And apparently there's a thin line between them. But going back to Abbey College, I just want to share with the audience some interesting information. In 2018, the 10th anniversary of Abbey College was celebrated. I don't know if you remember that there was a big event. Everyone was invited to the dining room, and it was like a gala night.
I remember it very clearly.
Yeah. So basically, when we arrived there, it was 9 years after opening Abbey College as a post-grad college for the university. But interestingly, the Abbey College wasn't a college to begin with. It was a hotel prior to that. And that's why it looked very different to other student colleges. There were 75 rooms, around 80 people from 32 different nationalities living at the same time under a roof. So these grounds shared communal spaces, study rooms, and the theater room, Dimena room, penciler room. Yeah, pool table, of course, sauna, jacuzzi, and pool. All of these very prestigious, chic facilities came with a fully equipped kitchen that was serving food 3 times per day. And if you didn't have time for you especially, you were always in the uni, you didn't have time to come for lunch or dinner, there was option for packing lunch and dinner. And there was always these fruits and milks and different types of, plant extracts and cereals available. It was a well-done, thought place for people whom their challenges is beyond a bachelor student, huh?
Even if the dinner time was over, which I think lasted from 5 to 7 p.m., then they would place the leftovers in the fridge on the side. And there was so much food all the time. And, we love meat quite a lot. So there used to be so much lamb. Sometimes there was so much of chicken wings. A lot of people around us complained about the food as well. But frankly, I thought that the food was really nice, delicious, and much needed, If you have had a stressful
And it was
day,
international cuisine, wasn't it? It was international cuisine, not just
it was
European dishes or Asian.
Well, it was international cuisine, but I'd say it was still very suited to the palate of most people. For instance, you remember the crowd favorite was butter chicken. Butter chicken, everyone loved. I think 15 minutes before the dinner was served, when butter chicken was served, people would actually be lining up waiting for it. Because within 15-30 minutes, sometimes the butter chicken was gone. I don't remember that there was any butter chicken left at the end of the day. There was so much love for butter chicken and rice. On top of that, a lot of people said that the meals were not nutritious. but they had so many different kinds of salads on the left hand side, as you'd remember. So it was a well balanced meal, followed by, some form of dessert as well, milks or juices or hot chocolate or coffee, because there was a coffee machine as well. So it was such a good experience.
To begin with, we didn't have an option for soup, but later on it was added. To begin with, we didn't have any option for snack time around 3 to 4 p.m., but it was added. One of the most things that I really appreciated about this college, especially when Chris Eddington came to Abbey College and became a warden, was these kind of changes, because he had the attitude of listening to the residents, and residents had concerns about food, safety, the places, the noise level, everything. Once in a month, we had this session in Penciler Room, and he was writing notes down. He was paying attention to all the suggestions, even those who were not really applicable. But I just appreciated that so much, because he was acknowledging what we are saying as post-grad students and the residents who care about the place that they're living. That's why during those 3 years, I saw these improvements. And that's why I never thought about leaving. Had you ever thought about leaving the place?
Well, when I was staying over there, I did not want to leave the place. But then the rent was quite high. And I think they were going to hike up the rent even more. So ultimately, I had to leave, but I did not want to leave per se, because it was a comfortable life. And especially I was moving into the third year of my PhD anyways. So at that time, having food facilities could have been nicer. But yeah, I had to eventually leave. But during the time I lived over there, I think the exposure to lots of other cultures was something that I really valued. I had the opportunity to learn about Iran so much from you. I had the opportunity to learn about China, about all kinds of countries. There were Americans there were people from Africa. So also we had the opportunity to communicate with each other, because sometimes you can feel quite awkward approaching another person. But because we had communal events, for instance, we would watch a movie together. Then we would have a discussion about the movie. For example, I remember watching Gone Girl. Then for the first time, although Thomas was my flatmate, but then that was the first time we actually sat down and had the discussion about the psychological aspects of the movie. But you, of course, were there for such a long time. I think maybe 3.5 years or so. So you submitted your thesis, but then you lived there for your publication bursary as well. That was for a further 3 months.
That's right.
So
yeah.
what were the facilities that you enjoyed the most?
I managed to experience the things that I never had the opportunity to experience back in home. Experiencing talking to different people from different nationalities. The karaoke, I never could have seen myself to take a mic and sing a song, in front of 20, 30, 40. And I had no clue that karaoke can be that fun. As you said, we had the opportunity of learning cultures from each other. We had cultural nights. Every month, one person was standing in front of the whole college in Penciler Room, providing a PowerPoint presentation and showing us pictures, videos, and everything from their point of view to introduce their own culture, their own country. And it was beautiful because you really don't get to see that unfiltered from the media. But because people were feeling that we are a big, large family, they were trying to be as sincere as possible. At least that's what I felt. And when I had this opportunity to talk about my own country in front of other people, honestly, I was feeling very proud that I think people were coming from outside as well, because I think after a while, it was an event that other people could have joined too. So the Penciler Room was almost full with people, maybe, I don't know, 80 or 90 people. And I was really proud of having this opportunity to talk to people about Iran and how it is not 100% interpreted in the media. Farewell parties, pool parties, which you missed, and pool games, which you didn't miss, but you sucked at it.
I don't think so, bro.
Even having my second job in New Zealand. My first job was becoming a demonstrator at the uni, and my second job was becoming an SCA, senior college assistant. I had the opportunity to be able to responsible for 75 people, 80 people during the time that there was no warden, at the college. So for me, it was fascinating to learn more directly and frankly from people from Turkey, Spain, England, France, Pakistan, Oman, Sri Lanka, India, South Africa, even New Zealand. People from New Zealand were in the college as well. For me, this unfiltered international interactions was gold.
It was so interesting living in a society, it was almost like a society because I was getting to learn about the kind of things that people can be capable of as well. So of course there was some drama as well in there. There used to be some fighting that used to happen sometimes, and sometimes people wanted to rope me into those fights as well, or arguments. But weirdly at the time I was so dead focused on my PhD that I did not want to get involved at all. Because there were so many nationalities, sometimes there could have been some form of like stereotypes playing out. One person commented to another person being like, well, generally people thought that people from this kind of area, not smart or whatever. That person was upset. That person came up to me and discussed this whole issue. I gave my 2 cents on it. And, then that person realized that what was being said about that person was actually wrong. So then there was a huge fight that broke out. That day, I must have received probably 15 or 20 missed calls on my phone while I'm trying to run my experiments and stuff like that. I really did not want to become a part of gossip. Plus, I was also not I was in a completely different headspace. If you talk to me now, I probably would have enjoyed more gossip, probably would have created more drama myself. So that was interesting. I think another event that happened, and sometimes you would not even be aware that what are people saying about you. And it's not negative. I find it really funny that someone said that I was planning on getting engaged to someone and that I was going to move into the main block with that person. So all kinds
Apparently, they knew more than you.
They knew more than me. And I was like, well, I wish, that if something of the kind could have happened, but it was just funny to hear things about yourself from other people. And you would wonder, wait, where did this even come from? There's nothing of the kind happening. So that was always an interesting aspect. When you're in the moment and you're facing such circumstances, then you can feel awkward about it. I felt awkward about it and also annoyed or frustrated. But going through those experiences, I wouldn't say very frequently, but occasionally when I went through those experiences, I got used to it. So I think it's a learning curve in that way as well. It also makes you very thick-skinned towards being said about you.
We experience drama in our own families, in our own close-knit family. How can we expect nothing happens in this big environment with people who have come from different backgrounds? For me, if you say, that's a rude answer, but for someone else is not, So the differences is just so wide. But you know what I found very useful? I actually love that because I managed to get used to so many of these kind of behaviors before I graduated from the university and before I joined the workplace, as they say, the real world, So I managed to experience the behaviors, and of course it's subjective. Someone from a particular country might be very different from someone else from that particular culture or country. But I had it in my mind that, hey, first of all, we can't stereotype people based on their nationalities. And second, I am getting used to these kind of behaviors because I can see the world from their point of view. So whatever I believe is not right necessarily to their eyes. So I'm not trying to convince them with what I believe. And I try to see how they see the world. I learned that through the weird experiences, through the awkward moments, but I think it was a necessary evil for me.
First of all, I just wanted to second whatever you were saying, in the sense that it almost felt like living in a cruise ship together, where, people would have breakfast, lunch, dinner together, do fun activities. So we had to see each other all the time. Secondly, to be able to see the world from another person's eyes, that was a very good place for mastering or honing that skill, which is such a critical thing in this day and age. So I think one of the other observations that I had from that was the fact that sometimes when arguments were happening, I felt like it was a war of semantics. Because of different cultures, different words were being used, as a consequence of which it could sometimes exacerbate. So looking through those words and trying to see where the person is actually coming from, and possibly not coming from an offensive place, was another skill that really helped me. It was a very eye-opening experience. My favorite activity was karaoke, singing. We almost had a boy band as well, you remember? Me and you.
We did.
And we
Do you remember
sang
the name
Carnival
of the song?
Rust. Carnival of Rust.
Yes.
Carnival of Rust. Metallica. Did we ever sing Nothing Else Matters together? I am sure we would have sung Nothing Else Matters together.
We did, yes.
Yeah, and I also remember we sang I Want It That Way by Backstreet Boys. I think there were some other people who joined our boy band for that duration. So singing was always my thing. I guess playing pool was another really fun activity. Always really enjoyed it. But more than
Although that you were losing, but still you were enjoying it. Kudos to you.
You can say I'm a good loser. But yeah, the thing I most enjoyed though was the walks, the scenery walks. And I remember Sajid and his love for photography. He took us to so many places, Amir. Because of his love for photography, we were able to go to so many other places. We used to go and experience the sunrise in St. Kilda. Were you there? You must have been there, maybe.
Man, we cycled to St. Kilda Beach before the sunrise. It was during the winter time. It was freezing cold.
It was freezing.
But we went there.
Good thing was that Abbey College had bikes already, because you had your own bike, but we could rent bikes and go anywhere we wanted to.
I'm going to second what you said, Zohaib, because, these kind of activities usually take place when you know people. And for people like us who are, migrating to another country for continuing their education and their focus basically is on their study, there's not much of time, I guess, for socializing unless you have a group of people with you. And you have to spend loads of time in order to find people who almost have the same concerns or viewpoints to life, as you, so you can bind together and experience these kind of activities together. But because of that privilege that we had in Abbey College, and there were so many people, as I said, 80 people, you could have always found 2 or 3 people that might think or might view the activities as just the way that you enjoy them, and just spend time with them. So it was a great opportunity for getting to know not only different people, but also the sceneries, as you mentioned. Kudos to that boy was something. Another aspect that I would love to mention is the opportunity that the place had to give us to celebrate our own cultural events and inviting people from outside. You know, as an Iranian, I'm a really proud Iranian, and I'm really proud of what we celebrate as Persians. Persians New Year, Nowruz, Yalda night,
Yalda night.
The longest night of the year, the Mehregan celebration. During these times, people from other cultures, they were really interested in getting to know that why are you celebrating this day? How are you celebrating this day? I didn't know what Diwali is. I had no clue why the Indians are celebrating, splashing colors to each other's faces. I had no clue what is Holi. I mean, Holi is a sacred word, but I didn't know that. What does it mean in this culture? The different sweets, the cuisines, the international cuisine that we were having for these events. If you were living outside, you had to book a place, or you had to own a big yard, to have those events and invite other people. But that place, again, had the opportunity of introducing everything that maybe it takes years for people to be able to experience everything. We experienced pretty much 20 cultures within a 3-year period.
I was also thinking about Ramadan, when we used to wake up early in the morning, have sahur together, and then break the fast together as well. So people would be very interested in getting to learn about what Ramadan was about and what Eid was about that followed up with it. And I remember that little party room that we had where we could call people, cook meals for them, where I got to cook lots of biryani for people, at the same time marinating 15, 20, 25 kgs of chicken sometimes, running and cooking barbecue. So it was so nice. And plus, I remember how there was a guy who was actually my roommate. He got married in Abbey College.
People were gathering together regardless of their religion. For Ramadan, as you said, a Muslim were sitting next to an atheist. Next to them, there was a Christian.
Yeah.
And next to them, there was a Buddhist. And the other one was just a non-believer, nihilist, And we were connecting together via food and the event. And I loved it that everyone was just accepting each other just the way they are. We had so many conversations regarding hijab, regarding why do you guys eat this, why do you guys do not eat that, and why do you pray, why you don't pray. Of course, there were some people who were not enjoying these conversations, or they were not really into talking about these things. But again, there was a respect. Okay, if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. There was some heated conversations after dinner for 2 or 3 hours. But again, it was great. That's the way that people can learn from each other. Put aside the differences and learn about the core values and beliefs. Whether you want to accept it or do not accept it, that's a different story. But just listen, to be able to listen to other people's words. I think it's a big skill.
I think one skill is to basically take a step back, first of all. I think it's not something that comes naturally to you, but, taking a step back and just trying to observe it. Like, how we were speaking about clouds, observing thoughts. Similarly, you can observe it. And we have to understand that there is this other person who comes from a different culture. They have totally lived their life extremely differently. And so I should respect their viewpoint they can have opinions about it. Coming from the background that I come from, we generally, well, at least I did not think about my own identity, and I was just following things for the sake of following because that's the way we have learned it. Despite having lived in England, having lived in Pakistan, I think I came at an age because I was around 25 when I came to Abbey College. And then, in that period, I feel like I gained so much, and I really admired some people's willingness to try to explore their own identity, who they are, what aligns with them. It really got me thinking about my own life. Else, I think Abbey College really did change me in that sense where it started, where I could then, because when you are growing up, you only, for instance, learn about one kind of religion, you're following it. But then when you're around different people following different religion or not following a religion as well, you can try and hear them out. So then it also in some ways stress tests your own beliefs, and you can refine them via thinking, via journaling, something like that.
Very true, because unless your thoughts are not being challenged by anyone, you just continue to think the same way. But unless someone is challenging what you're thinking, then you start to double checking what you've been thinking so far. What was the worst experience that you had?
Initially, I was settling in and I was hanging out with people, but then I got really focused on my studies. As a consequence of which, I had to give up on hanging out with some of my friends. The painful things was that some friends moved on without me and they started to organize their own thing, and that was a little bit painful. It was also a good reminder to live in the moment, to just like enjoy your moments with people while they last, the transience of the moments. But then once you move on to another chapter of your life, you could leave it back. There should be no compulsion for you to still carry it. So moving on and letting go was one lesson that I can derive from it. But initially it was a little bit painful.
If I go back, I again choose Abbey College. Would you do the same?
100% I will choose Abbey College. I think it was, plus, I think now that I've learned so much from it, maybe I would also conduct myself a little bit more differently, where I would try and be more approachable. Because initially, when you come from another country, you're a little bit shy. You don't know really how to approach people. I also noticed that in certain cultures, people have different facial expressions as well. So those kind of facial expressions might to me seem like as if they don't like me or they are repulsed by me. But in reality, it's just a normal facial expression. So if they're talking, if they're trying to have a chat with you, then I shouldn't really try to conjure up these stories in my own head about them as well. So I think I will change a lot of things about living in a community college going forward if I ever got the opportunity, but probably not. But maybe second PhD somewhere.
Seriously? Okay.
I think I'm done with PhD now.
True. No, that's great. I just want to shout out to the Abbey College heads. Since the beginning, Gretchen Keeble was the first warden, was appointed for being the head of Abbey College. After her, Dr. Charles Tustin was the second head. Luke Morrison was our warden during our time. We started with Luke, continued with Julia Taylor.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, and last but not least, Chris Addington. And honestly, all of them were trying so hard to both manage the expectations of residents and the university as well. And it's a shame that it got shut down after COVID, because the borders got closed, there was no international students, and people were graduating, people slowly were leaving the college. So it wasn't financially beneficial for the university to have it as a postgrad college. Then it changed into an undergrad college. That was fantastic. Thank you, Zohaib, for this retrospective talk regarding our beloved memories of Abbey College. If there's anything else that you want to mention, the stage is yours.
Well, Abbey College was very important in grooming us. I guess both of us can say that in the sense of getting used to other cultures. And I think if I could give any advice to any student going into like a new culture, so we can have a lot of apprehensions about approaching people, but people won't bite. So that's why just go up to people, speak to them, get to know about their culture, what's special to them, and you might find someone special, like how I found you and I became really good friends with you. We had a really good time along with Sajid. By the way, Sajid was only there for 6 months, but it felt like a lifetime because we did so many activities together. So it was very cathartic to speak about Abbey College, also very relieving to just relive the memories of simpler times when we didn't have to worry very much about career and jobs and stuff like that. Just focus on one topic and do our PhD. So yeah, thanks so much for having me over again.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you for being in the studio again. Honestly, I just consider myself as a very lucky person who had the opportunity to live in Abbey College and to find everlasting friendships with you. I'm so honored to call you as my brother. And that's just the beauty of it. Hey, as you said, people who are out there and you afraid of getting into a conversation with someone from other countries or other culture, just do it. Just go. They might have the same fear and that's why they're not approaching. You be the one and you'll enjoy it.